What's going on, everyone? Welcome to the latest episode of the Believe in Oregon podcast. I'm Zachary, Neel. My co-host over there is Jonathan Stewart. Jay Stu, how's it going, man?
Good, man. How are you? How's the
Doing
weather?
well, man. The weather is good. It's summer in Eugene right now. It's mid 80s. It's a little bit hot, honestly,
It's
but yeah, it's
perfect.
great. Yeah, it's good.
Perfect weather out there.
How's it over there?
Um, it's hot, like
Hot.
100.
Oh,
Heat
that's too
index is
hot.
like 100, 100 and
That's way
something.
too hot.
But
Way too hot.
but it's a good opportunity to sweat. I'm actually coaching football
hmm
and coaching middle school football, and we get an opportunity to sweat with these kids. So I get a nice little workout in the morning, and then I
hmm
go to practice, and I get my conditioning in.
There you go.
Pursuit today we worked on pursuit angles. So
Wow,
pursuit drills on defense. I was the ball carrier.
man, your middle school football team needs to be really good because if they're not, we got some problems.
Yeah. Hopefully, it's all about the talent. It's not all about coaching all the time. It's definitely the talent, but we can do what we can, do the best we can and grow these young men to be, you know, pretty good football players as they get older.
That's very true. Well, we were off last week. It felt like a pretty good time to just take a beat and hit the reset button. It was kind of the midpoint of the off season. Jay Stu, you went on vacation. I took some time off. We got our ducks in a row, so to speak, for how we want to, start our coverage of the upcoming football season. We're going to do a lot of previews for the Big Ten over the coming weeks. We're going to look at Oregon in general as we get into that and just kind of get into the lead of the season. That's all going to start next week. Today we have a very special pair of guests coming on the podcast. Todd and Quinn Van Horne with Van Horne Brands. They're coming on to talk to us about the new basketball court design at Matthew Knight Arena. If you don't know about Van Horne Brands, they're essentially responsible for just about everything Oregon and Nike that you see and have seen over the past couple of decades. They've designed uniforms and cleats and courts and countless things around Oregon athletics. If you've been living under a rock for the past few days, then you don't know that the new court at Matthew Knight Arena was unveiled on Sunday night. It's a beautiful green mosaic of trees and ducks and all of that. I had the pleasure of talking to Todd and Quinn before the unveiling and hear about their designing process and what all went into the decisions that they made, and it was really incredibly fascinating. So we wanted to bring them on the podcast and let them tell some of the stories that need to be told. Before we get to them, though, Jay Stu, I just wanted to hear from you. What were your first impressions when you saw the new court at Matthew Knight?
Um, it was good because I love the contrast of the green on the court. It's going to be easier on the eyes for the viewer when you're watching humans go up and down the court with the ball. So a little less stress on the eyes. Even though I loved how it looked, but in a sense of like practicalities of enjoying a game at home, which is basically what I can only do since I live on the East Coast.
Mhm.
Uh, I'm really excited about the green and just the contrast there, and just easy on the eyes. It's a beautiful product. Both products were beautiful, but this one, obviously, I think they're taking some considerations from fans, coaching, and players to create something very unique and special. So I'm excited to talk to them about it.
And what I really loved is that they didn't go away from the design of the first one with the trees and the deep in the woods. They kind of kept that same, philosophy and ideology, and they just made it better. They just kind
Hmm.
of figured out where they could tweak it here and there, where they could change the colors, make it a little bit easier on the eyes, like you said, brighten it up. And so I love that they kind of kept the same philosophy and still did it. This is a little bit of a peek behind the curtain, but we already taped that interview with the Van Horns, so this is a bit of foreshadowing. But what was your favorite part of that interview? What did you take away from that the most?
I love Todd's his quote. 1% or 10%
10%.
inspiration and 90% perspiration, right?
Uh-huh. Yeah, that's right.
Um, and you know, and that's just from a design god, a design you know man that has obviously done so much in his life, but he takes the same elements of you know execution is the most important thing. It goes from sports, it goes to business, it goes to family, it goes to you know your commitments to your peers. You can talk a good talk, you can have all the ideas in the world, but if you do not execute, they're just ideas.
Mhm.
And in this day and age, a lot of people need to hear that message. And I really appreciated him, being who he is to Oregon, to the culture of football, to the culture of sports in general, and design and swag and all the other elements of getting recruits to say, "Oh, that's different. I want to be over there. Let's go over there,
Mhm.
mom and dad." Like he is obviously the king when it comes to to design, and to hear his his values and how he goes about his work. That was huge for me to hear, and very inspiring.
Mhm.
So I'm going to continue to execute, on my daily course, so that way I'm not just talking the talk.
Yeah, absolutely. I loved their father-son dynamic too. It's
Oh
so
yeah,
cool that they get to do this thing they're so passionate about, and such a special thing that they get to do it as a father and son. It was fun just interviewing them, sitting side by side, just father and son, and kinda the
yeah,
little, quirks that they have together, and, when they would, both kinda be stumped on a question and just look at each other and be like, "Alright, who's gonna answer this first?" So,
yeah.
it was a very cool interview. I hope you guys enjoy it. Without further ado, here's our interview with Todd and Quinn Van Horne. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I could not be happier to welcome on both Todd and Quinn Van Horne, the two lead designers for Van Horne brands and two of the many master artists who have been putting their fingerprints all over the newly redesigned Kilkenny Court at Matthew Knight Arena. Todd, Quinn, welcome on, guys. How's it going?
It's going great. Thanks for having us aboard.
Yeah, pleasure to be here. Super excited to talk about the court and share some of the things that make Oregon great.
Absolutely. So, the Oregon Ducks unveiled their new court on Sunday after a couple of months of anticipation. I'm just curious, what have the past 48 hours been like for you guys as fans saw the design? Just kind of how, your work is now public. For so long, it was
Yeah.
private, it was kind of kept secret. What's the reaction been like for you guys?
It's been great. It's been wonderful. We're super excited to see that so many positive receptions of people that have been super excited about the court. Obviously, we love the old design with the trees and a lot of that deep rooted storytelling. And we were really excited. For the last couple of weeks, we've been trying to keep our mouths shut as much as possible. But this is such a special process to have been a part of, and my phone has not stopped buzzing, especially these last couple of days, which is a new experience for me, and it's been really wonderful to see a lot of the positive things that Oregon fans have to say. And I think the ultimate thing is getting excited for basketball season. Both these teams are looking really good, so we're excited that the court can live up to their expectations of what they want to see on the court.
And I must say it's kind of an odd feeling when you've been working so hard on something for the last 4 months, just solid every day, just because something's happened and something has to happen, and you're like head buried down into it, and you're just trying to make it work as best you can and look the best you can and tell the right stories and get the right people on board, and then to have it, listen, like you said, it goes public, and it's just like it goes out there into the, it's like you're sending your child out into the world, and now they're just soaring high, and so it's a really fun process, but you're like, wow, that just happened, didn't it?
Yeah. I mean, that's amazing. I wonder how many times did you guys come up with a design element or you know product, and you were like, "Oh, this is it," and then the next day you come back like, "Oh no, this isn't it." Like, how many times have you gone through that phase?
Every single day. Well, I mean, I think that's the beauty and the hard part about creating is you create something, you feel like, wow, this is the best thing ever, and then you wake up the next day going, huh, I think I can make this better. And so it's an iterative process, but that's what makes, the world that we live in fun. And when you're doing it for something you love, you can't put enough love into it. So that's what we love about Oregon.
Yeah, and one of my favorite things I like to say is not everyone's a rocket scientist, but everyone's a designer, in the sense that everybody knows how things want to look and has an idea about what are some really cool things that they want to see. And man, give credit to the folks at Oregon. Like everyone there is so inspirational and everyone has such amazing ideas, especially talking with the student athletes. We were able to get so many insights into like, hey, here's what we love about the court. The trees are so iconic. Wouldn't it be great if we brighten this up? They're such a critical part of the process that, they're amazing in really what they do. And they bring a lot to the table when it comes to, talking about the court, talking about uniforms, talking about facilities. The athletes are the heart and soul of Oregon, and their creative minds and their process is a huge part of what we do.
I had the pleasure of interviewing you guys a little bit less than a week ago, just before the court reveal came, just to talk about the process and everything, kind of what we're doing today. One thing you told me that surprised me a little bit was that you guys didn't start planning the redesign until the change of conferences was announced. Once you knew that they were going to the Big Ten, that's when you guys talked to Tinker Hatfield, and it was kind of like, all right, let's do this. I'm curious, was there any time before that in the past several years where not that you started planning a redesign, but you thought, okay, this is what I would like to do. I would like to get another crack at this and try something new.
I would say no. I mean, I think we kind of took the opportunities when the opportunities come, and I
Mhm.
think with the conference realignment, it's like, well, you knew that the logo on the court was going to have to change. So
Mhm.
as Oregon, you don't just want to repeat the same things. You don't want to, kind of reheat what we already did. That even if it was great, you don't want to reheat it. So you got to move it
Mm.
forward. And I think that conference realignment just was that opportunity to say, wow, okay, let's step back. Let's talk to the athletes. Let's talk to the coach staff. What do we like? What is our brand that we have a whole new audience that doesn't know Oregon, doesn't know the West Coast, doesn't know the trees, doesn't know the history, and doesn't know that University of Oregon is Innovation University. So let's show them, and let's do this with the new court. And I think that's kind of where it starts. Is goes back to the athlete, like Quinn said, but it also starts with this opportunity that we're going to have this whole new audience in a whole different world that we're playing every week.
Yeah, speaking of that, I mean, with going to the Big Ten, you're on a national presence now. Um, you've been on a national presence, but now that we're Big Ten, the coverage is going to be larger than it's ever been. Does the arena and this design element impact recruiting? Like, are guys? Do you hear any stories of recruits coming in, being excited about the court or wanting to see the court? Like, tell me about that.
I think so much about with recruiting is it's that first attention grab and that first impression. It's Oregon setting out the best front porch in the country. And, I know so many people growing up that said, oh my gosh, the University of Oregon, I love their uniforms or I love their court. And that's what gets them to wanting to research. Well, now that I know that, where is Oregon? Where's Oregon on the map? Okay, now that I know that, what are their coaches? Where are the athletes? Where are the culture? Man, I'm in love with this place. I think that it's a great way for Oregon to set itself up as that first impression. When you're watching an Oregon basketball game, you know that you're watching Oregon. And especially our big things with really, using a lot of the greens and the colorways, to really emphasize that this is the University of Oregon, this is our brand, this is our story, and this is our moment. And being able to make that presence known. So as people being able to watch around the country, young kids and young fans being able to look and say, wow, I want to be an Oregon Duck because that court's really cool. And I think that that's really the start of that long process of, not only getting people from that, low marketing talk, marketing top of the funnel to be able to move down towards being lifelong Oregon Ducks fans.
This may be a tough question to answer, but there are so many intricate details and little things on the court. I mean, you guys walked me through the whole thing. There's several stories about it online, but if you had to pick a favorite thing about the court, when you look at the court today, or you look at the court in a year where you're like, that's the design, I'm so happy we got in there. Are you able to, it's kind of like picking your favorite kid, I know, but are there things about that you're like, wow, that I'm so happy we got that through in the design?
I'm sure Quinn and I are going to have different pieces of this, but I'll just tell mine, because when we started this process of honoring Matthew Knight, in, what was it, 13 years ago,
Yeah.
right? When the original MKA floor happened. And so I did the original Math United logo, and it's kind of inspired by a Tory gate. And Phil was going a lot when Matthew was young and all that. The hardest part is to honor somebody who's not here, and just the tragic, death of that part is really heartfelt for me. So I know for me, I think my greatest the little nugget is when we have the soaring ducks in a flying V formation, and we have the missing duck in honor of Matthew Knight, and that missing man formation is how the military honors their fallen soldiers, and I think being able to say, we'll never forget you, Matt, and here's a reason right there on the court that is you're always soaring with us. That kind of feeling, for me, that's one of my favorite elements.
Yeah, I would say that's also my number one, but I'll give my number two is especially when talking about the court, there were so many people that, talked about what does the court look like in the national landscape? What has made Oregon basketball special? And obviously there's so many fans that still have such a large affinity for MacArthur Court and the legacy and the history that it's had. And, when we really started working, we talked about, hey, a lot of the courts around the country are becoming bleached. They're becoming really kind of like really, really light wood, really, light colors. And, we just kind of went back so much to the same philosophy was used at Hayward Field. And I'm sure will be used, for many other projects at University of Oregon about wood and how important wood and timber is to the story of the state of Oregon. And, we love the Bill Bowerman quote, Oregon is wood and wood is Oregon. And, being able to use an oil-based finish to be able to really bring out that hardwood and really make it, feel as distinctness. Some of the inspiration I used a lot of, like looking at the Boston Celtics court, and I love their parquet floor, how you can see those different levels of wood and you can see all those different pieces spring out different colorways. And that was something that ultimately, when the court was finished, we were super proud about how that came out.
I'm gonna jump in real quick, Jace, too. I think my favorite design detail is what you guys told me, that the photographs of the trees that you guys went out and took 250, 270 photographs of trees. As someone who grew up in Oregon, and trees are all around me, and that's part of my being able to look at that court and be like, oh yes, there is not a single tree that's alike here. It just that makes it feel so real and so rich to me. So that's probably my answer to the question. I think that's my favorite thing.
That's great.
Yeah. And on that note, just, our designers that we work with, Jody Fisher, Gary Evans, though, those were two people so instrumental in being able to go out and capture those trees, being able to design them. And then we also have our friends over at Court Sport who helped finish and do the court. They were awesome in being able to go in, and they were going out and picking out details of the trees that were small as a fingernail and making sure that it was able to be done. And as good as we are as designers, you need people that are going to go out and build it. And Court Sport absolutely did an amazing job on the floor.
It was truly a collaboration of a lot of people pushing their unique individual parts in it to make it work.
Man, that's awesome. Like, what elements of this new design will enhance the fan experience? Like when you're designing stuff like this, you're obviously thinking about the players. But from the fan aspect, what elements did you put to the forefront as like, okay, the fans are going to love this in person? Like, give me that.
Energy. I think energy is the biggest thing. We wanted that court to feel like the heartbeat of the arena. And I know, Zach, thank you for taking a great quote from me that I'll kind of repeat, of like wanting to be a microcosm of everything that makes Oregon special. And wanting to not just feel like you're walking to a basketball arena, but you're walking into this like storybook of the amazing things that University of Oregon has done and the state of Oregon has done. I think that for fans, especially when they walk in, obviously, being able to see it a little bit better on TV, we really made sure we did our due diligence to make sure that this was going to be a court that showed up well on TV, that this was going to be, an experience unlike any other. And you feel the uniqueness and the joy of being able to walk in. And, I can say when we were going to the arena so many times, checking on it, it just made us excited. It just made us happy. Yeah. And we really hope that same feeling is imparted in so many fans coming into the arena.
And you're right. I think the experience in person is even better than looking at it on pictures. The trees, as you walk around the court, the trees feel different. The colors brighter. It really just feels like it's lighter, brighter, warmer, richer, and it just feels like it's truly emblematic of University of Oregon.
The green aspect to it all is what I love the most, really, about the whole design. And there's no question, going back to what you guys are saying, when you see it on TV, you see it on picture, you're gonna know exactly where that court is. And that's gonna be huge, especially going into the Big Ten. You're basically planting a flag every time
Yeah.
you're being watched and viewed on television, and for fans coming in person, you might have some Big Ten folks trying to switch sides.
Well, I like that of the flag, because that's why the O is so big, because everywhere you go, they'll know the O.
Mhm.
That's will be.
Yeah.
So sorry, Zach. Go ahead.
No, you're fine. I love that. I'm curious, what's the for novices like us, what's the most difficult aspect of these past however long this project took for you? What's something that gets overlooked from us that we don't really think about? Is it just the sheer magnitude of the whole project? Is it kind of getting yourself ready for the opinion of fans? What's something that was really difficult that is not going to get enough attention now that the project is done?
Well, I describe, as this was very symbolic of that too. Design is often 10% inspiration and 90% perspiration. It takes a lot to, I mean, it's one thing to be able to design it on a computer or on a piece of paper, and it's, hey, design looks great. But it's a whole nother thing making that reality into a court where athletes and fans are going to be on that court, where it's going to have longevity, where it's going to look the way you want it to look. And I think that part of the process is, yes, you're right, it's probably overlooked, how many steps that has to go through from the translation of the idea to actually making it reality. And it's not, like I said, people think like, oh, it's you did it, here, just hand it over to somebody and then it gets done. That ain't the case at all. You've got to walk through every single step, test every color, look at it under the right lights, look at it on film, make sure it's reading the right way on camera. And, there's just a lot of steps that to make it look the way you want it to look, and to really feel like it's an expression of University of Oregon and Innovation University. There's just a lot of steps that you have to go through that make it great.
Yeah, and that's such a credit to, the collaborative process that is to make something like this between our team, between Court Sport, between the University of Oregon, making sure every single color is right, making sure every single tree is in the right place. We shifted those tree colors a few times to make sure that it was bold and it was coming through, but also subtle and dissolving a little bit into the court. Every single person played such a big part in this process. And we love Dan Lanning's phrase of like, the redwood had strengthened its roots. And we're like, that's, one big thing is like, this court feels so rooted because of all the people that have touched it and been a part of it in such a unique way.
And
the grass. And of course, the damn green grass in Eugene.
The grass is green for sure.
I was gonna just say, like, the 10% inspiration and the 90% perspiration. That's a big lesson for people to learn, and just life in general. Like, you can have all the inspiration in the world. You can wake up feeling like, I'm gonna listen to my podcast. I'm gonna listen to, the Oregon Duck podcast,
Believe in
and
Oregon.
Believe in Oregon, and I'm gonna go and champion my life. But you have to get up every single day knowing that in order for me to have a finished product, I have to be doing something to the product every day.
Yeah.
And that's called execution. You got to execute. I really like that quote. So hopefully, Zach, you quote that when we post it. And
when he said it, I saw your eyes light up when he said it. I was like, all right, that's a new quote for Jay Stu. He's gonna be writing that somewhere.
Yeah. Well,
I'm gonna tell it to my kids tomorrow when we have football camp tomorrow for.
Yeah, Jay Stu, it's like you as an athlete, and this. There's a lot of talented athletes out there, but you got to put hard work with the talent, or else you're not going to get to the finish line.
Yeah, I'm gonna tell my kids tomorrow. I'm coaching football, middle school football with Greg Olson and Luke Kuechly,
Oh wow.
and I'm gonna tell my kids that tomorrow when they're not finishing their drills. You're not executing, man. You got all the inspiration in the world to be out here, but you're not putting in any desire to finish.
Yeah.
And I need
Absolutely.
finished product every day.
We talked about this in the interview last week, but I couldn't really find the perfect spot for the quote in the story. But so I want to tell you guys or ask you about it now. How difficult is all of this when you have these two major projects going on at the same time? I mean, you guys are working on the Matthew Knight Arena court. You're working on the Oregon uniforms as well. You've got, strings pulling you everywhere. You're trying to do everything, and it's all in a very public space. You're going to be, the opinions of hundreds of thousands of people are going to be on what you guys do. How difficult was that to kind of, pull a balancing act and be working on these two massive projects at the same time?
Well, you can't say that it's easy. Yeah, you can't say that. You gotta focus on what needs to get done every day. I'm probably back to Jay Stu's comment. It's like, okay, where is the highest priority to keep things moving down the field? And that varies because yes, there were times where it was like, okay, we've got okay, this the sample didn't come quite back the way we wanted to on a uniform. Okay, the court's in good shape right now. Let's focus back on that schematic or that sort of detail, and then we get back to the court. You gotta. It's a juggle. I can guarantee it's a juggle. But I don't know that necessarily the being so public was such a pressure for us. I think it was making sure we were doing right by the athlete and making sure we were doing right by the approved concept and what people loved about either the court and or what will be unveiled with the uniform. So I think that was probably the biggest pressure. Yeah. It's like, oh, we can't change from that intent because that's what people love, and let's just make that great.
Jay Stu, do you have anything other basketball related questions for him?
No, I mean, yeah. How do you guys see? How do you guys what does it mean to you to be, in a sense, a little bit of a trailblazer in this department of arena designs? That's pretty special. And I mean, you're talking about a culture, changing the culture and being a part of history, not just in Oregon, but in the entire world. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is something that is being publicized, nationally, internationally. When you go to bed at night and you say, oh man, like my job is to design and I got an opportunity to design, a basketball arena, what does that make you feel like?
Well, great question. Really good question.
Yeah, really good questions. I'm glad I asked.
I mean, I think in this case, since it was so personal and so special, I think we're honored and humbled. We truly are. I mean, this, trying to, wrap and do a project, again, honoring Phil and Penny Knight and losing their son, Matthew Knight, and you having that, I won't say burden, but it's an honor to be able to be part of that process where you're telling that story. I mean, I think you feel, wow, I hope we did it right. I hope they feel good about this. It's, you can never, I don't know, there can never be enough, I guess, to thank Phil and Penny Knight for the opportunity, Tinker Hatfield for the opportunity, who gave us this project and gave us guidance along the way, and University of Oregon and the Oregon athletes. I mean, I think you feel special that you're doing something for that. Now, I think for me, after that, there'll be a lot of people that will love it. There'll be a lot of people that will bash it or hate it or whatever. But you're doing it for the right people, and the right people love it. And I think that's what matters to us. Or it certainly matters to me.
And I want to add and I'm going to hype you up for a second of growing up, I won't deny the fact that I'm his son. Is and it's something special to be able to
he's been carrying me for years
to be able to design with your dad. And as growing up, I didn't know that I wanted to become a designer really until I went to college. of, I was a marketing intern at Oregon. I was shooting the t-shirt cannon at Autzen Stadium 5 years ago, which was an amazing time, and a really incredible process. But it's really when, all of the little jigsaw pieces, it feels like, of my life got put together. I'm like, oh, I guess I can be really good at this. And I guess that if I can do it with my dad and we can be able to make this something special, that this could be, something that we could really make an impact on, and, helpfully be able to inspire, those next people, and create and elevate the University of Oregon and elevate our designs in a way that it can, reach the same people of, it inspired me to want to do what I do, and it can hopefully inspire other people as well.
Quinn, when did you realize that you were, good at this? I mean, being the son of, basically a design
A
guy.
legend,
Yeah.
an Oregon legend.
And
Like,
Yeah.
2 questions. So when did you discover that you were good at this, and how do you manage the pressures of
Yeah.
performance?
There's a couple things. It's a little bit of, it's funny, especially with uniforms, is I've been doing it my whole life. Like when I was in, middle school, I would attend the Nike scripting meetings for football. And I would stand up in the room and say, well, we can't wear that because that team likes to wear a black helmet, and I don't want to contrast with that. And this, hey, we should wear this against this team, and we should be able to do something like this. My favorite is the 2014 Oregon-Michigan State uniform with a Sonic Boom helmet, yellow jersey, yellow pant. I was the one who stood up in the room, being early in high school, and said, hey, we should do this because I think this would look really cool, and it would be cool on national TV to be all yellow. And that was something that it's kind of been like it been implanted in my brain the whole way. And then, really once I got out of college and, I, started working a little bit more in marketing and realized, okay, maybe this isn't for me. And we came back and had some great opportunities present us from Oregon to really get involved. And that's when I kind of was like, okay, I started to realize all my favorite things that I've been doing throughout my entire life have been design. And so let me do, those things that I do. And, for the, following in the footsteps comment, it feels really good to have big feet in the sense of, wanting to make my own impact and make my own mark. But it's also great to have, a father and a mentor that I can, call or literally walk out the back door of my parents' house and say, hey, what do you think about this? Or, hey, how do we change this and make this even better? And, me and my sister Allie, we always grew up in the school of branding. And so even in her job that she has, she's like raising her hand saying, why are we doing this? Shouldn't it be like this? And they're like, well, that's like an advanced like branding design thing. How do you know that? And it's like, oh, I probably just learned that, when we were like 7 years old in that way.
Yeah.
So I would say that it's like, it's an incredible blessing and a great opportunity that I'm really grateful to have taken advantage of. Nobody else I would like as a number one dad and number one boss in that way.
Oh, that's awesome, man.
I think I speak for a lot of people when I say I am so incredibly jealous that you got to do that in middle school. Like that was my absolute dream. As someone who grew up in Oregon Duck fan, and obsessed with the uniforms. That was my dream, being able to stand up and say, "Hey, they should wear this." I've always it's my favorite thing playing the NCAA video games. Like just deciding, well, I didn't care about the game afterwards. I want to decide what they were wearing before the game. So the fact that you actually got to do that and have people listen to you and actually take your advice, man, that's incredible.
So can I answer the question too?
Yeah. I was coming right to you next.
Okay. So I think this is, talent doesn't happen by accident. Talent is when preparation meets opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that Quinn, ever since he was, even before grade school, he's been a Duck fan. I mean, he would dress Duck stuff every single day, and he would determine which kid he's going to play with in the playground if they were a Duck or a Beaver fan. So just a little, that is true. Just a little insight on
hey, you a Duck or a Beaver?
Yeah,
I'm a Beaver. I can't mess with you.
All right, no, yeah. So he is a fourth generation Duck from his his mother's side, the smarter side of the family. But in through grade school, I mean, we were obviously big, football fans who watch every game. I mean, literally, he's got kind of a photographic memory of the game, of the uniform, of the score, and maybe what happened. Pretty much, I mean, stuff that I can never ever remember. And I'm like, I'll test him every night. Hey, Quinn, 2012 on against USC. What do we wear? I mean, and he'll know that and know the score. I mean, just we don't have to test him right now, but anyway,
I think I actually know that one.
I know.
Yeah, that was the war. That was the all
The Storm LA.
Yeah, Storm LA. Kenyon had 300 plus yards.
324 yards.
Yeah.
So,
Jeez.
so a little bit of that, and then I remember when he was in grade school, and I was, imagine, I mean, Jonathan, you got young kids, and you get into this spot where they want to, you want to give your kids the opportunity to do anything they want, right? And especially when they come home, they want to play in the band, and like, Dad, I want a tuba, I want to play the tuba, and you're like, oh boy, is this? I got to buy a tuba? Is this going to last? Like, I'm going to love it for 3 weeks and then never pick it up again? Quinn had a whole presentation to me about buying Final Cut Pro, which is a video editing software that professionals use, and he's in middle school. And I'm like, you know how expensive this thing is? And he's, yeah, I do. And I'm like, well, okay. And and he goes, I'm going to do it, and I'm going to do duck videos. And he did a prep for every single game, almost like
there were the old Oregon motivational videos. Yeah. I would download them on YouTube, and I would recut them into my own videos with music.
So not only did he do what he loved, but then he got really, really good at editing videos and doing that. And it's kind of like that all of that preparation and all of that talent led to this opportunity. And now he's just like, oh, Dad, I got that video, and he'll go and edit it. Oh, I know that software. I know Photoshop. I know Illustrator. I know all these things. So it's all that preparation of what he did. Now it meets the opportunity to something that he loves.
Wow.
So speaking of specific games and specific years and jerseys, let's talk about 2005, because we know that this is kind of the jersey reveal eve. The Oregon Ducks are expected to announce their first jersey of the Generation O series tomorrow. It'll be Wednesday today as this comes out, if you're listening on Wednesday. I have a million questions I want to ask you guys about the jerseys. I'm confining myself. I don't want to get any of you guys in trouble, so please don't let me get you in trouble. Don't say anything you're not supposed to. But a cool video came out yesterday about the 2005 Civil War, where Stu was part of this. They warmed up in yellow jerseys, and right before kickoff, they came out in the first ever time wearing black jerseys. Todd, you were part of that design process, I'm assuming. What was that experience like, and kind of how did that come about?
Well, I think we had the idea, working with Coach Bellotti at the time, we had the idea that we could fit this uniform within this production cycle and schedule. And we just said, let's make a big statement. And we went down there, and that was the meeting with Coach Bellotti. We said, if we make this look like this uniform, we can wear this in Civil War this year. And if Coach Bellotti, he loved the idea about wearing black. He thought that was super, super cool. He didn't really like the number font. He didn't. So he's like, you guys are getting me in trouble. I'm going to wear this jersey. I'm going to say yes. But after this, I want you to change the number font. So that's why that number font was only one game. We called the duct tape number. That was only one game, so that made it special. But the whole idea of wearing black was just like, if these athletes want to wear that, that's what we're wearing. And that's making a statement. And man, that game certainly made a statement.
Whose idea was it to switch it up during right before the game started? Because I'm not gonna lie to you, that threw me for a loop. I was a rookie. I was a freshman that year, and all I know is we come back inside. I got class. I got all kind of stuff going on in my brain. I'm just trying to focus on, okay, remember these plays and just be ready, to deal with your bubble guts before the game, right? Come in after, pre warm-ups. I see jerseys and stuff on our locker. I'm like, wait a minute. Yeah, everybody hurry up and change. It was like a straight up like mess. Everybody's just like adrenaline. Everybody's excited. And, but we had to change out of our uniform. It wasn't the actual, all right, let's go sit down, find your zen, relax, drink your water. It was just like heartbeat pounding. Everyone is anxiety running through the roof. and changing your uniform. Especially for me, I had really big shoulder pads, and it's hard to really just put that on. Yeah, I need help taking it off. I need help putting it back on. Whose idea was that?
I don't know that it was a single author's idea. I think everybody said, I think it's probably somebody crazy saying, wouldn't it be cool if we had a little gamesmanship introducing the black uniform? But obviously you've got to get everybody from the coach to the equipment managers. I mean, they had to shoulder the big load. Probably your captains on the team at the time had to buy in. So I don't know exactly what that chain of command was, but I mean, but I know after that it was like, okay, we did that once. Let's not do that again, because it was hard. But it certainly, yeah, like I said, it was made a statement, and here we are 20 years later, almost talking about it.
Yeah, I mean, we definitely made a statement that game. It was almost probably like for the Beavers, they were like, "Wait, what the heck?"
Quinn, what was
Like,
Quinn? What was the final score?
Oh man, it was 56-14, wasn't it? It's pretty close to that.
it
Yeah,
sounds
I
good to
believe
me,
it.
bud.
I think
I know
that's
it was
it.
a blowout.
If I'm wrong, the internet's going to roast me.
Yeah.
But I think that was it. But yeah, it was the Fog Bowl. I remember I was 6 years old at the time, and we had a babysitter because my dad's like, no, the Civil War is a little too crazy. We won't bring you kids down there to that. And I know you will. There's a couple of those moments that you regret not bringing me down for being young, but.
Yeah.
I always thought the uniforms were cool. I remember I had one of the retail jerseys of it, and I wore that thing endlessly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the memory that I have that sticks out the most is the kickoff return that I had.
Yeah.
Opening the second half, and like the reason why I remember this so well, especially after watching the clip yesterday when they released it, but as far as the feeling, because I had to have absolute focus. I remember during halftime, I was like, okay, we're getting the ball back, and it's going to be a kickoff return, but it's foggy outside. I won't be able to see anything. I'm like running all these things in my brain, but I was like, Coach Rad, we did kickoff return and punt return after practice for like 30 minutes. And it was all routine. It was all just having the awareness of the sideline, having the awareness of spacing with blocking and all those types of things. And so, man, when I tell you that preparation was important for that game, it was, being and for us to be at, being at home adds the familiarity and the comfort level too. But I remember the thick air, the crowd noise seemed muffled, and when they kicked that ball off, I couldn't even see the ball being kicked. I just saw movement, right? And it was like watching a bunch of ghosts, like going down the field, and then I see these shadows, which was us, like moving.
Yeah.
But the ball disappeared, man. And then all of a sudden, you see the ball reappear. And just because of my instincts and my awareness and preparation, I was just right there in the right spot, to be honest. I knew that they were aligned to kick it to the right. And so, boom, I set up, caught the ball. And basically every step that I took was a step of faith because I had no clue where people were until I got closer and closer to the end zone. And it had to be because the fog was being released through that tunnel a little bit, because as I got closer to the end zone, I started seeing things. I remember getting to like the 30-yard line, and I stiff armed the guy and I was free. But that was like one of the most amazing football experiences I've ever had, playing football throughout my entire career. And so thank you for designing those jerseys, because we probably got away with a lot of holding calls, a lot of penalties at some point because they couldn't see anything. So thanks.
One of speaking of just those holding calls, one of my favorite things, and I remember when it was 2019, Oregon was playing Washington State, and it was when Oregon was wearing their all nightmare uniforms, and I see all the offensive linemen, they're wearing white gloves, and I saw them like, what are they doing? They're wearing white gloves, and I think I forget who I ran into on the sideline, someone I know, and I'm like, hey, white gloves. This doesn't fit with the uniforms at all. They're like, oh, it's because Washington State's wearing white, so we can try to hide ourselves from the holding calls. And I was like, oh,
Smart.
that's an interesting strategy. It did not work. I think we got caught. But just I always think about that when people bring up the missed calls and pieces.
I love it. I want to end you guys on this. We'll get you out of here in a sec. But do you have both of you? Do you have a favorite uniform over the past 20 or so years? Like this is like your all-time favorite. The favorite one they've worn.
I'll let you go first.
Oh man, that is a tough question. Well, because my favorite one I'm going to say is the one that comes out tomorrow, which I'm very
Okay.
excited for.
I love that.
That's maybe because I've been a part of the process a little bit more than I have in the past, but I really like it. It's going to be really special. The one that they've worn previously that I've been a huge fan of, 2011 Oregon's Fighting Duck uniform that they wore against Cal on a Thursday night. And it was the introduction of kind of like the Kelly apple green and with the duck on the shoulder. And I was a huge fan of that uniform. I had the shoes and I had the hat and I wore them like crazy. I think that was the one that sticks out the most in my mind. Just
Were
because
those black helmets, black pants with the green.
yeah, black
Oh, yeah, I
helmets,
like
black
that.
pants, and it was the big yellow O on the side. I think D'Anthony had a really big game. LaMichael had a pretty big game. I think that was the game that he got injured, unfortunately. But Kenyon had a really big game. That was just a real fun one, especially seeing the rain come down in the stadium was really fun.
And I have two. The first one would have been the original Natty uniform if Oregon was at home, because it would have been anthracite uniform with that Volt sock and the carbon helmet. Would have been awesome. And obviously we were away uniform. That would have still been one of my favorites. And then I say, because I've get that question too, but I say that the most important one was, I think, the Dornbeckers and
The
that
Stomp Out Cancer.
the Stomp Out Cancer, and what University of Oregon did for that, and the relationship. I think Terrell Crosby's still in touch with Sophia from that time. Just the kids battling cancer and helping create a uniform, and having everybody embrace that. That was so emotional. And then to beat Nebraska, it was really fantastic at home. And that was, it was a close game, but it was just, that was, I don't know. It just, I just hear again and again how much that represented to people, that there was a Stomp Out Cancer game, and hopefully that helped save lives.
Stu, you got anything else?
Man, just appreciate you guys, continuing to do what you love, and, obviously inspiring people. But as we just learned today what 90% you got to do. You got to make sure you execute. So appreciate you guys executing and staying diligent to your passion, to Oregon, for the fans, for the players. We really appreciate you guys, and continue success, man.
Yeah,
Thank
absolutely.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you guys so much for coming on. I think I speak for everyone listening. I cannot wait for tomorrow and to see that new release of the jerseys and all the ones that are coming after that. So good luck with all that, and I'm sure that the reaction is going to be incredible, as it was for the court as well. So thank you again for coming on. Really appreciate it.
Of course.
Gentlemen.
Thank you, guys. Go Ducks.
Appreciate it. Go Ducks.
All right, thank you again to Todd and Quinn Van Horne for spending some time with us. That was an awesome look at the design process of the court. Stu, we spent some time at the end of that interview talking about uniforms. And tomorrow, or today, if you're listening to this on Wednesday when it comes out, the Ducks have or will announce that they are unveiling their first of many Generation O uniforms. All signs kind of point towards it being an all-black uniform with some incorporation of throwback design in it. This is where I ask you, which feature from the past uniforms do you most want to see in this new uniform? Is it like the tire tread on the shoulder pads, the wings? What are you hoping that they bring back from past uniforms the most?
Whatever the Joey Harrington uniforms are, I love those uniforms.
Yeah. Wow, I didn't expect you to say that. That's not what I expected.
Particularly, the white ones. I love the white Joey Harrington era uniforms because of that green sliver that goes on the ribs down the side, with the yellow that goes in between, the black numbers, the green collar with the yellow Nike is just very what's the word? Timeless.
Yeah.
Seems so timeless. And if they can add some elements from the Joey Harrington era, I would really love that. And partly because when I was in high school, these were the jerseys that they were wearing, and that's what part of my process of finding figuring out what college I wanted to go to. These were the guys that I was watching during the time. Ontario Smith, I have a poster of him, that was in my while I was in high school, in my bedroom. Had a big old poster of Ontario Smith, running the ball in the black uni, and
Mhm.
it was just something about that uniform that I just loved, and the simplicity of it, but yet different.
Yeah.
I can't really explain it.
Yeah, I feel that. I think for me, I so badly want to see some sort of return of the tire tread. There's been so many iterations of uniforms. We've seen different types of wings and, different styles of shoulder plates and everything, but we've only seen that one tire tread and it hasn't come back since. What was it? Last time they wore it, I know they debuted it in 2005. Last time they wore it was like what, '07, maybe '08.
Yeah, yeah.
So I want to see that come back.
Maybe the tire treads will be on the numbers
Ooh, tire treads. I just have a feeling that they will be incorporated somewhere in this uniform tomorrow. That's just
or the
my gut
collar.
feeling. Yeah, the collar, that could be cool. Um, the Ducks released a video on Monday night teasing these black uniforms. Well, what I think will be black uniforms. I think they talked about the first time they ever wore black uniforms. So it feels like these ones are going to be black tomorrow. But this was a story that I had personally forgot about. The one that you lived in the 2005 Civil War. The first time you guys ever wore black jerseys, you actually warmed up in yellow jerseys before the game, then changed into the new black ones in the locker room before kickoff. We talked about it a little bit in the interview, but I mean, did you really not know that you guys were doing that before the game?
Man, I like, to be honest, I don't like I can tell you that I did not know. People might have known, but I'm
See,
the type of
is that a you
I'm,
thing or is that a
it could,
team
it could
thing?
it could be a me thing. It could definitely be a me thing. If you ask my wife, like, me and my wife are going to Rhode Island to a wedding this weekend. I don't know where we're staying.
Yeah,
I don't know where we're eating. I don't know what time our flight leaves right now. I don't know what time
yeah.
we get there. I don't even know how do we have a rental car? Maybe not. Uber. I don't know. That's just kind of how I go about things. And
I'm just saying, as your podcast partner, I believe this was probably you too. I can. It would not be hard to convince me that you were just kind of off in La La Land, and they're like, oh,
yeah.
New Jersey's, I'll put it on.
Well, it was not necessarily La La Land. It's just I'm a person that if I
You're
have a certain
focused on
amount of
other things.
task, I'm gonna give it my undivided attention and
Yeah.
focus. And I have people in my life that I trust with other things. This is how I roll, man.
So what I want to hear more is that they used DeAnthony Thomas, good friend DeAnthony Thomas, to unveil this. Have you gotten a call? Are
I
you
haven't gotten
expecting
I
to get
haven't
a
gotten
call? Do
I
you
haven't
want to
gotten a
get a
call.
call to unveil a jersey?
I haven't gotten a call, and I want to get a call, but it seems like I need to call somebody. And
Yeah,
so
we'll get you the contact.
you know, Kenny, I'm gonna text you, dog.
Kenny, we know you're listening.
We
Scott
know you're
Anderson,
listening.
we know you're
We actually
listening.
we actually plan to have Kenny on here, at some point this season or off
That's on
season.
you. You need to set
Yeah,
that up.
so we'll set that up. But either way, I think it's all gravy. I would love to be a part of it, but if I'm not, I get it.
No.
I'm a piece. I'm just old dirt at this age. So
No, we need to get you a part of that for sure.
nah,
That'd be a big thing for the podcast. Let's do an unveil on the podcast. That's what they
that would
need.
be nice. That'd be nice.
Set this up for me. All
We
right, that's
dreamers can dream.
dreamers can dream. Yes, we will never stop. All right, that's gonna do it for us today. Thanks for tuning in. Again, go subscribe to the show, rate, review, all that stuff. Help us grow our audience this off season. Like I said, next week is the start of July, which means that the preseason is officially here. We're going to celebrate that by starting out our previews, looking at other Big Ten teams, looking at the Ducks in a zoomed-in lens, trying to get you ready for the historic 2024 season to come. So we know that we want our listenership up for that. So help us grow the audience. Jay Stu, you got anything else to add before we get out of here?
No, I can't wait to dive into the Big Ten teams to basically prep our listeners for what they can expect. This is something that I am looking forward to, which is breaking down teams, breaking down players, understanding who we're up against. I've done this basically for my whole life, and I can't wait to dive into it with
Yeah,
you, Zach.
I can't wait as well. It's gonna be a lot of fun.
Hmm.
You check out more of my work at duckswire.usatoday.com. Follow me at Zachary C. Neel on Twitter. Follow Jay Stu on Twitter at JonathanStuR1. Make sure to check out the Believe in Panthers podcast. For myself, Zach Neel, for my co-host Jonathan Stewart, we will talk to you guys next week. Until then, take it easy.
Go Ducks.